Sonny and Lindbergh to introduce themselves and share a fun fact, and then I'll cover the first slide that comes after it too.
Cool. Yeah. Hey everyone. I'm Sonny. I'm head of product at Stacklet. Um, been using Custodian for like 9 years now. So was part of the Custodian team at Capital One, way back when. And still fighting the good fight of cloud governance. Also want to shout out, thank you, Mayor, for putting this on. Obviously, it's a huge amount of effort, and been really enjoying all the talks so far today. And fun fact about myself, really looking forward to wintertime. I enjoy spending time up in the mountains, going skiing, just hanging out with friends, and ready for it to get a bit cooler. With that, I'll hand it over to Lindbergh.
Hey, thanks, Sonny. Hi, my name is Lindbergh Matillano. I'm the Director of Cloud Optimization at Avalara. Fun fact about myself. Well, I guess my name, you're probably looking at my name and saying, wow, Lindbergh Matillano. I was expecting some German Italian guy, and you got a short Asian dude. My name is actually, I'm named right after Charles Lindbergh, the first pilot to cross solo across the Atlantic. So that's a little fun fact about myself. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking about Snowflake usage, particularly with Cloud Custodian.
Great. I don't know, Sonny, if you want to do next slide. We did, as a team, wanted to give a shout out to Simmer, who's on this Zoom call as well. This idea initially was his, like a year back. He started talking about how data platforms like Snowflake, and he works at Snowflake in their external FinOps team that help Snowflake users optimize their spend. And he thought, Custodian would be a great tool to optimize proactively Snowflake usage as well. So kudos to him that he helped us with it. He helped us with the architecture review and everything you're saying. So a big, emoji or a clap for him too. He's on this chat as well. And I'll let you take it from here, Lindbergh.
Great. Hey, thanks a lot. So for those that are not familiar with Snowflake, it's essentially a cloud, a, a database application that was born in the cloud. It runs exclusively on AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, and it decouples simply compute and storage that allows for pretty much infinite scaling in the data warehouse. One thing that is great about something like Snowflake, it's very simple. It's SQL-based, API-driven. You don't necessarily have to set up compute resources and memory, right? You just get it going and you do a simple query, which is great. But next slide. Because it's so easy, right? You got compute, storage services. But what makes it so easy also makes it so easy to overspend. And without governance, you'll always, with any cloud or any type of system where it's usage-based, without governance, there will be runaway spend. So next slide. So that's why it's very important for us to focus, on optimizing and governing our Snowflake spend. And a lot of the concepts that you're applying and you're learning here in governance as Code Day and on Cloud Custodian on AWS or Google Cloud or Azure really is very applicable to Snowflake, right? You have to have good tagging and allocation practices. You have to scale, right size your warehouses in these cases, and you have to optimize the main driver of your costs, which often the case is queries. The longer the query runs, the more compute it uses, and hence the more costly it becomes. Next slide. So why Cloud Custodian for Snowflake? In general, I like Cloud Custodian primarily because one, I'm not an engineer, right? I can go in, but I can look at the Cloud Custodian policy and easily make sense of what it's doing, right? I don't have to spend years of coding. I essentially just look at what the YAML is, do some pattern recognition, make some simple changes, and voila. So that's one main advantage of Cloud Custodian. It's easy to read. It's an industry standard. Another thing is really holistic governance, right? I think a lot of us out there are probably managing multiple clouds, and now you're probably also managing, multiple database as a services, right? And context switching can often be difficult. So as much as everyone tries to do their best, it also helps to have really one tool or a series of tools that you can lean on and quickly look at what they're leverage and quickly look where the overspending is. And because Cloud Custodian has been around for years, it has a very strong foundation, proven foundation by multiple users. I mean, not hundreds, thousands of users, and thousands of organizations. And one of those biggest contributors is Capital One, and it's also backed by this open source community where everyday people have problems, and they're just helping each other solve it, which is great. So next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Sonny.
Yeah, thanks, Lindbergh. So, Custodian was originally designed to solve some of that repeated work problem that a lot of organizations have, where you want to, do the same type of query across all the different clouds in terms of tag compliance. In Snowflake, it's no different. So, in Snowflake, you need to write a SQL query to get all of your tags. Tags also work a little bit differently in Snowflake compared to the other cloud providers, which means that you have to learn another language. You also have to learn the schema. You have to learn all these intricacies about tagging inside of Snowflake. And so here we turn this type of query into a very simple Cloud Custodian policy, right? So if you're familiar with AWS tagging, Azure, GCP labels, this should look immediately understandable, right? We're looking for warehouses where we have the owner tag that's absent. And of course, we were talking a lot about LLMs earlier today. This also has a side benefit where, of course, we're consuming less tokens. So if you're using an LLM to help you generate policies or to generate queries, this can also help with your token management there as well. Another example here is, of course, not only are we able to filter for resources and use the same custodian syntax that you're familiar with, like the value filter, but also able to chain actions, right? I think one of the earlier presentations today basically put custodian as like the best way to run actions across your cloud at scale. And we hope to do that similarly with Snowflake. So here, I've omitted the filters here, but obviously you want some level of filters before you run an action. But again, similar syntax. If you're a cloud engineer, this is something that you should be very familiar with if you've used Custodian before. And what we're doing here is we're using the modify action on all the warehouses to enable query acceleration. Next, Lindbergh had mentioned that one of the biggest cost drivers of Snowflake is basically query time. Since queries are query compute time is a direct driver in terms of the credits that you are consuming. Snowflake does try to help you out in creating a table inside their account usage schema called Query Insights. And here, again, we're showing that the power of Custodian, where we can author a policy that looks at that Query Insights table that gives you a comparison for, to find all the warehouses where you have Query Insights with a total elapsed time greater than, 300,000 milliseconds. So again, just trying to simplify the language and help you roll it out at scale. We also have a notify action here, which should be familiar to everyone. This is often the missing part of a lot of these sort of, insight tools where great, you found a huge problem, but to be able to productionize and push those to push those findings to the right people, you often don't have that right context. And so, adding something like a notify action is 100% within the purview of Custodian and the notifications that we send out today with the C7 mailer. And of course, we heard about shift left today as well. The great thing about our Terraform provider in C7 left is it is provider agnostic. So you don't have to have specific Snowflake support inside the Terraform provider. You get it out of the box. So a few things that we want to highlight here. So one on the left, we have our Terraform code. So if you've written Terraform code before, but maybe not Snowflake code, this still should look rather familiar. And what I had mentioned earlier about the tags being a little bit different inside of Snowflake. So Snowflake, instead of sort of tagging the object directly, you create a tag association. This will make a lot more sense if you think about Snowflake more in like a relational database model in your head. So here we've got a database. We've got three tag associations here. So we've got the environment tag, the owner tag, and a cost center tag. And on the right, we've got a policy here that if we read the description, it says it validates tag association values, follow the required format. So what we're doing is we're actually making sure that the environment tag is one of dev, staging, product, production. And then we're also making sure that the owner tag should be an email address. So looking at this, of course, our owner tag here, instead of being an email, just says someone. And we've got a nice little regex expression here for our filter. And then when we run our policy, one, we clearly see that this is the name of the policy that failed. We get the description here, which is a great way for us to include the rationale and the reasoning for how you have to have a resource set up. And we also give you that inline code representation here. So here we tell you exactly where in your Terraform code you had the mistake. And so it's super easy to go and fix. It takes 5 seconds to go and change someone into a real email address. And if we go and take a look at another policy here, so, of course, we are back looking at the same Terraform code, but in this case, we're looking at a tag compliance policy here. And this is something I wanted to highlight that's actually really, really cool about the Terraform provider. It's this traverse feature. So the traverse filter allows you to go from one resource to associated resources. So if you think about how Terraform creates a graph of all your resources and your data sources so that it's able to understand how and in what order to update, modify, delete, or create resources, we're able to leverage that in memory and do some really interesting things. So for example, here, we're using the traverse filter and we're saying, I want to look at all of the Snowflake tag association resources that are related to our Snowflake database resource. So here, we're starting from here, but we're going to be looking at these three resources. And in each of these, of course, we're looking at the tag ID. We want to make sure that the object type is correct, right? So object type database. And we also want to make sure that the tag ID itself ends in this environment tag. Again, if you think about Snowflake more in a relational database model, this will make more sense, but essentially those tags are stored inside of a separate schema. And so we don't really care about the database and schema in this example. We just want to make sure that the tag ID is correct. So here what we'll do is we'll just comment out this cost center tag. So if we were to go and say run our custodian policy against it, of course, we should be flagged because our cost center tag is now missing inside of Terraform. So let's run this again, and we can see here that we have the old failure here, of course, because we didn't fix it yet. But here we see that we've got a new policy failure here on our Snowflake database tag compliance policy, and the reason here ensures that Snowflake databases have the required tag association. So really cool. The Terraform provider allows us to enable a lot of functionality for resource types that don't exist already in Custodian. It doesn't have to be a cloud provider. It could be something like a GitHub organization. You want to make sure that it has certain checks on all repositories that are created. I could go on and on. There's thousands of different Terraform providers, but hopefully that sparks an idea in your head about where you might want to use it. And of course, for Snowflake, this is available and working today. So next, I don't want to ignore our security use cases as well. So in the same way that the decade or so of custodian features and commits and PRs have continued to scale and enable us to work on different types of use cases. List item is another filter that we added not too long ago, but it's been really, really useful. The filter allows you to basically do additional filtering on items within a list, hence the name. But here we're looking at Snowflake roles, and we want to make sure that, and we want to find all the roles that have grants to a specific warehouse. This, I think, is a really clean way and obvious data governance point of view, where you want to make sure that certain roles don't have access to data that they're not supposed to. Of course, in this case, this is sort of a trivial example where we're looking at learning work warehouse. But you can extend this to all kinds of different security cases and compliance use cases as well. In terms of what's next, so the PR is PR 10311. It's in draft, so it's not available just yet in the form of like a pip install installation. But would love to hear additional use cases. Would love to hear ways that you might want to use the Snowflake provider in terms of additional resources that we want to support. Of course, databases, accounts, things like network policies. Yes, those network policies also exist inside of Snowflake. So you want to make sure that you're not granting access to your database outside of your network, for example. Things like filters, be able to do something like a cost filter on expensive warehouses, find warehouses where like spend has increased by more than X percentage over the last 30 days. And actions, supporting things like notify action as well, and different modes. So that's the end of my deck. I think I'm also at time.